Picture this. It's a Friday night. Ayan is sitting at a rooftop restaurant, the kind of place where the menu doesn't have prices on it. He's got a glass of imported whiskey in his hand, his crew is laughing around him, and somebody at the table just goes, "Bro, you are literally living the dream." And Ayan smiled. Because from where everyone else was sitting, he absolutely was. He's 29. He posts from business class lounges even when he booked the cheapest seat on the plane and just walked through the premium cabin to take a photo. His Instagram has 14,000 followers who genuinely believe this guy has figured something out. He drives a car that costs more per month than most people's rent. He dresses like someone who has never once checked a price tag in his life. But here's what nobody at that rooftop table knew. Ayan had checked his bank balance that morning. Twice, because he wasn't completely sure the dinner bill was going to go through. He's carrying $18,000 in credit card debt spread across 3 cards. He has 0 investments, no real savings to speak of, no plan. What he does have is a perfectly constructed image of a life that doesn't actually exist yet, and this quiet, terrifying fear that someday someone is going to figure that out. That fear? That is the hidden tax the fake rich lifestyle charges you every single day, and nobody mentions it when you're swiping the card. This video is about that lifestyle, why it's spreading faster than ever, who it's quietly destroying, and most importantly, how to get out of it before it takes everything from you. Because Ayan's story is not unique. I have seen versions of it at every income level, in every city, across every age group. And the scariest part is that most people living it don't even realize they're in it. It feels too normal, too comfortable, too well put together to look like a crisis. So let's talk about what is actually going on here. The common assumption is that the fake rich lifestyle is obvious, that it's easy to spot from a mile away. People see someone living beyond their means and assume that person is clearly irresponsible, clearly uneducated, clearly making a bunch of obvious mistakes. And the advice is always the same tired stuff. Just stop buying lattes. Just stop eating out so much. Just be more disciplined. But that framing completely misses the deeper problem. The fake rich lifestyle is not primarily about individual purchases. It's about identity. It's about who you believe you are and who you feel like you need to be seen as by other people. And that is a psychological problem, not a budgeting problem. You cannot fix a psychological problem with a spreadsheet. You cannot solve an identity crisis with a savings hack. This is exactly why so many people learn about personal finance. They read the books, they watch the videos, they follow all the right accounts, and then change absolutely nothing. Because the information was never the issue. The story they were telling themselves about who they are, that was the issue. The media has always shown wealth as something visible and external. The watch, the car, the vacation, the restaurant, the outfit, the apartment in the right part of town. We have been trained since we were kids to associate those images with success. So when we hit any level of income or financial stability, the first instinct is to broadcast it, to show it, to make it real by making it visible to everyone around us. But real wealth is largely invisible. Real wealth is genuinely boring to look at. Real wealth is a brokerage account with index funds growing quietly in the background while you go about your life. It's a paid-off car note. It's an emergency fund that hasn't been touched in 4 years. It's the ability to say no to a job you hate because you have enough runway to walk away without panicking. None of that photographs well. None of that performs on social media. And so we've built an entire culture that rewards the performance of wealth over the actual accumulation of it. That is the environment Ayan grew up in. That is the environment most of us grew up in. And until we name it clearly for what it is, it will keep running silently in the background, like malware on your financial operating system. Always spending, always performing, always one emergency away from everything falling apart. Now let's get into the actual data. Because this is not a feelings conversation, this is a facts conversation. A 2023 survey by Bankrate found that 57% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency expense out of pocket. Not 10%, not 20%, 57%. More than half the country is one flat tire, one ER visit, one broken appliance away from going into debt. And yet, consumer spending on luxury goods in the United States hit $93 billion that same year. People are pouring money into visible status symbols while having absolutely nothing underneath to stand on. The Federal Reserve's data on household net worth shows that the median American between the ages of 35 and 44 has a net worth of around $135,000. But when you strip out home equity, meaning you look at the money that is actually liquid, actually accessible, actually invested, that number drops to under $30,000. For people who should be in the heart of their prime wealth-building years, credit card debt in the United States hit a record $1.13 trillion in early 2024. The average interest rate on that debt was sitting around 21 to 22%. Let that sink in for a second. People are borrowing money at 21% interest to spend it on things that lose value the moment they buy them. A couch, a vacation, a designer bag, a dinner they won't remember clearly a month from now. And then month after month, they are watching their money get eaten alive just to keep those purchases afloat. Here is another number that should genuinely stop you in your tracks. A 2022 Charles Schwab study found that 48% of Americans identify themselves as spenders rather than savers. Nearly half the country has fully accepted a consumer identity as a permanent core part of who they are. They have made peace with it. And that is honestly the most dangerous statistic in this entire video. Because you cannot build real wealth with a spender identity. The identity has to shift first. Everything else follows from that one change. And then there is the compound interest reality that most people understand in theory, but never truly feel in their gut. If Ayan, instead of spending $500 a month on lifestyle inflation, had invested that same $500 a month starting at age 25 into a basic S&P 500 index fund, which has historically averaged around 10% annually, by age 65, he would be sitting on approximately $3.16 million. $3 million from $500 a month. That is not a trick. That is not some get-rich scheme. That is just math doing what math does when you leave it alone long enough. But Ayan will never see that money because right now it is going to a car payment, a gym membership he uses maybe twice a month, 3 subscription services he forgot he signed up for, and a wardrobe that impresses people he probably won't even know in 10 years. So, how do you actually break out of this? Let me give you the rules. Not tips, rules. Because tips are things you try once when you're feeling motivated on a Sunday night. Rules are things you live by even when you're tired, stressed, and really don't feel like it. Rule number 1. Stop buying things to signal who you are and start buying things to support who you are becoming. This is the foundational shift. Every purchase you make is either a vote for your current identity or a vote for your future identity. When Ayan signs a lease on a car he can't really afford, he is casting a vote for the identity of someone who needs to look successful. When a wealth builder passes on that lease and redirects that same monthly payment into an investment account, they are casting a vote for the identity of someone who is actually in the process of becoming successful. Same dollar amount, completely different trajectory. The psychology here is everything. We spend money to feel like ourselves, to feel like the version of ourselves we want other people to see when they look at us. We use purchases to narrate our story to the world around us, and that impulse is deeply human. It is not stupid. It is not something to be ashamed of. But it needs to become conscious, because the moment it becomes conscious, you can redirect it towards something that actually serves you. The question to ask before any significant purchase is not, "Can I afford this?" Because that question is almost always manipulated by your ego into a yes. The monthly payment looks manageable, the credit limit hasn't maxed out yet, so it feels affordable. But that is not real math. The real question is this: is this purchase a vote for the person I am performing or the person I am building? Ask that honestly every single time. It will fundamentally change the way you shop, I promise you that. Rule number 2. Calculate the true cost of everything, including all the hidden costs that the price tag never shows you. Every purchase has 3 layers of cost. The first is the obvious one, the sticker price. The second is the maintenance cost, the ongoing financial drain that follows the purchase home and lives with you. The third is the mental energy cost, the cognitive and emotional overhead that owning something requires from you over time, sometimes for years. Take a car as the clearest example. A new car priced at $45,000 is not a $45,000 purchase. It is a purchase that brings along insurance premiums, fuel costs, maintenance, registration, potential repairs, depreciation, and the constant low-level psychological weight of worrying about scratches, loan payments, and resale value eating at the back of your mind. The true 5-year cost of many new vehicles clears $70,000 easily once you add everything up honestly. But the dealership only ever puts the monthly payment in front of you, and that monthly payment, stretched across 60 or 72 months and presented in isolation, always feels manageable. That is by design. The same math applies to a designer bag, a bigger apartment, a boat, a vacation you put on a credit card. Every visible purchase drags behind it a shadow cost that is completely invisible at the moment you buy it, but very real in the months and years that follow. Genuinely wealthy people are obsessed with total cost of ownership. They think in systems. They see the full picture before they commit to anything. That is not something they were born knowing. It is a habit they built deliberately by forcing themselves to ask uncomfortable questions before signing on any dotted line. Rule number 3. Automate your wealth building so that willpower is never required in the moment. Here is the uncomfortable truth about willpower. It is a finite resource. It depletes over the course of a day. It gets completely overwhelmed by emotion, by social pressure, by smart marketing, by a rough week at work, by celebrating good news, by trying to cope with bad news. Any financial plan that depends on you making the right decision in the moment every single time will eventually break down. Not because you are weak, but because you are human. And being human means that sometimes your emotional brain is going to make calls that your rational brain is going to seriously regret. The solution is to take willpower completely out of the equation. Set up automatic transfers from your checking account to your investment account on the exact day your paycheck hits, before you see the money, before you touch it, before your brain has even a split second to decide it needs something else. Pay yourself first, automatically, every single month, no exceptions and no negotiations. Money that gets invested before you can spend it is money that will never be subject to your worst impulses. This is not a new concept, but it is a radical one in actual practice. Because most people structure their financial lives so that spending is frictionless and easy, while investing is manual and inconvenient. Flip that architecture on purpose. Make investing automatic and completely effortless. Make large discretionary purchases require deliberate, slow, inconvenient, manual effort. Friction works in both directions. Use it strategically. Rule number 4. Create a real gap between your income and your lifestyle, and then protect that gap like it is the most valuable asset you own. Because it genuinely is. The gap between what you earn and what you spend is where wealth gets created. That is it. Everything else is just commentary. And the single greatest enemy of that gap is lifestyle inflation, the near universal human tendency to automatically increase spending every time income goes up. You get a raise, you upgrade to a nicer apartment, you land a promotion, you lease a nicer car, your income grows. You start going to better restaurants, booking more expensive trips, wearing better clothes, buying better everything across the board. And at the end of every single year, no matter how much your income has grown, the gap is still roughly zero. Because the lifestyle silently expanded to consume every last dollar of every raise you ever got. The Wealth Builder's rule is straightforward. Every time your income increases, let your lifestyle absorb no more than 30% of that increase and immediately invest the remaining 70%. You still get to enjoy the raise. You still get to feel the upgrade in a real, tangible way. But you are also building something real in the background at the same time. The gap stays open. The machine keeps running. And over time, the compounding effect of consistently protecting that gap becomes extraordinary in ways that are genuinely hard to fully appreciate until you are actually living it on the other side.
Rule number 5. Change your social environment, or deliberately change how you relate to it. This one is uncomfortable to hear, but it is completely non-negotiable. Research on social influence and financial behavior consistently shows that the single strongest predictor of your money habits is the money habits of the 5 people you spend the most time around. Not your income level, not your education, not your raw discipline or your IQ, your social circle. If you are surrounded by people who measure success exclusively by visible consumption, who celebrate new purchases loudly and publicly, who treat saving money as some kind of deprivation and spending freely as really living, you are going to be fighting an uphill battle every single day. Because human beings are extraordinarily susceptible to social norms. We are wired to fit in. We are wired to mirror the behavior and values of the people physically around us. That is not a character flaw. That is just how we are built. But it is wiring that was not designed for a world of 21% credit card interest rates, hyper-targeted social media ads, and Instagram feeds that are specifically engineered to make everyone around you look richer and more successful than they actually are. You do not necessarily have to end friendships over this, but you do need to intentionally build relationships, even if some of them are through podcasts, books, or online communities, with people who think differently about money. People who find compound interest genuinely exciting. People who talk about net worth rather than just income. People who see a paid-off debt as something worth celebrating. The goal is to start absorbing a different set of norms about what real success looks like and what is actually worth spending on versus what is just performance. That absorption is happening automatically right now. Now let's talk about the long-term philosophy. Because rules are only as powerful as the deeper framework the fake Rich Lee Ray